Zelensky is a dictator without elections, and Zelensky better move faster. He's not going to have a country left. I mean, that's a pretty strong broadside. What do you think Trump means that? Or better question, what do you think Trump means when he says that?
No, they're going to pull. The U.S. is going to pull the plug. I've already heard that they've started pulling CIA officers out of Ukraine. So the CIA paramilitary support that's been there and active, that's starting to be unraveled. That U.S. intelligence ISR platforms are no longer operating. That's entirely up to the Brits. You want to collect intel, you go collect it. We're not doing that anymore. So if those elements are true, the United States is already starting to disengage, and it's going to be the reality is Ukraine's going to run out of money and weapons because Europe, despite all of its big talks, not in a position to provide or replace anything. So Zelensky is literally biting the hand that feeds him. Instead of exercising some humility, instead of recognizing, you know what, getting into a public pissing contest with Donald Trump is not a good idea. I'll keep my concerns in private. I'll go talk to him. If Zelensky was smart, he'd be praising Donald Trump for as a great leader and what a wise man he is, and that Zelensky wants to do whatever he can help Donald Trump to achieve his objectives, and then get him in private and say, "What the hell are you doing to me?" That'd be one thing, but to do this out in public, and again, I have friends that have met with Trump in person where they've delivered very tough messages to Trump. In person, he can take it. And actually, sometimes he listens. But when you try to take him down in public, it's just, hey, he's this New York brawler, and that's what comes out.
And Larry, I mean, come on, man, read the room. I mean, all the signs are out there. It's over. It's over, past tense. You should be doing everything you can to say, well, let me get as much as I can out of this deal. Let me get the best terms I can. Let me get the best parachute to land somewhere safe that I can. I mean, that should be animating his actions right now. There is no alternative, none.
Right.
But do you think, quick question, do you think that Zelensky is so detached from reality, from whatever sources, you mentioned potentially drugs and some other stuff, or just pressure, that he actually thinks that by saying these things publicly, he's going to shame Trump into changing course? What do you think is on his mind?
Oh, yeah, no, I think it's the latter. I think he's the sources, the people he's talking to in the United States and in the European Union are telling him, you can't back down. Trump's a bully. You just got to confront him. Boy, talk about bad advice. Trump is, he's going to be unrelenting in this. And again, it'd be one thing if it was just confined to this area, but Trump still remembers this character helped put him into the impeachment box the first time. Zelensky did. When Zelensky could have helped Trump from going through that and didn't lift a finger. Do you think, and basically, when Zelensky's body is on fire, and if Trump is drinking a cup of coffee, Trump won't even pour a cup of coffee on to try to put it out.
Yeah, wow, that's pretty harsh imagery there. We'll leave that where it is. I think that you've made a pretty strong case there that Zelensky is just detached from reality and can't be trusted upon to even have a seat at the table, because he will make demands that can never be met and try for leverage that doesn't exist. And I think that a strong case can also be made that President Biden was in that same camp, just could not deal with the reality and just continued on, or else he recognized the reality and just followed these policies anyway, because they, quote, hurt Russia, inconsequential to how many Ukrainian people died in the process. Either of those things is possible. But now that you have Trump, who's talking stuff here that seems, at least in large part, to be based on the truth and on ground truth reality. One other player in this drama also seems to be maybe the most reasonable person. So I want you, as I play this next clip of this other person, you tell me, of those four people, of Trump, Biden, Zelensky, and this guy, who sounds the most logical?
других участников, то, во-первых, Россия никогда не отказывалась от контактов с европейцами. Россия никогда не отказывалась от переговорного процесса с Украиной. Никогда. Это наши
Okay, actually, just pause there if you could, Gary. So let's look at that. One of the things that I have heard so many times over the years, plural, is that everybody or many people keep saying about Putin, he is not even willing to negotiate. He's not talking about any negotiations. But then here Putin's claiming, no, we've never said that. We've always been willing to negotiate. Who's telling the truth here?
Well, no, Putin is, and go back to when Putin first came into office in 1999 and asked the United States, then Bill Clinton, hey, can we join NATO? Following up on a request that had been made years earlier by Boris Yeltsin. And the answer was still no and hell no. Then you jump ahead to the conference in Bucharest in 2007. It was the Munich Security Council. Or maybe it was, I don't know if they held it in Munich or Bucharest. Regardless, Putin gave a speech about sort of the end of the unilateral world and the multipolar. Man, icy. He was met with defiance throughout. And then the Niet Mens Niet cable from Bill Burns. And so repeatedly throughout the years, Putin has always sought to have some sort of negotiated arrangement with the West. And up to and including that treaty that you referenced earlier in December of 2021 that was put on the table, and then outright rejected by the West in January of 2022, which then led to the start of the special military operation. And again, they negotiated Minsk too, thinking, okay, hey, we got a deal here. And it turned out it was a sham. They got lied to. They had negotiated in good faith prior to Putin the intermediate nuclear forces agreement, and then Donald Trump shows up and says, that agreement's canceled. Forget about it. And then when you had the actual agreement between Turkey and the Turkey brokered between Ukraine and Russia, the West, the United States, and Britain interfered and destroyed that. So when you're looking at it from Putin's perspective, you realize that the West cannot be trusted, and no matter what they say, their word is no good. So this is Trump's got a lot of work to do to try to rebuild U.S. credibility in the eyes of Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, he does, but he seems to be at least making some headway on that.
Yes,
they're trying to get together. You see, by the end of February, that's what they're hoping for, or the 1st of March. Gary, if you could go back to that video, I want to continue on with something else that Putin says here that I'd like Larry's view on. So just go ahead and restart that when it comes up.
Переговорного процесса с Украиной никогда. Это наши, так скажем, партнеры по этим переговорам отказались, прекратили контакты с Россией, европейцы, а украинская сторона запретила сама себе вести переговоры, вышла из переговорного процесса в Стамбуле, прямо публично об этом.
Okay, just stop there too. So here you say, when you actually want to talk about the facts, it's not Russia who's been unwilling to negotiate. It's been Ukraine that by law prevented itself from having any discussions with Russia going forward, which that law still is on the books to this day. Right. And as he pointed out there, they're the ones that walked away from Istanbul. It wasn't the Russians. Those are absolute irrefutable facts. Yeah. So how do we get from these absolute unequivocal pieces of evidence to the point to where, with like Blumenthal, who's saying there's no truth to any of it? How does that happen?
The same way that you have a society under Joe Biden that was saying that men could get pregnant and breastfeed. I mean, it's that, Danny, it's that same kind of delusional divorce from reality. You know, they try to pretend that there are no such thing as objective facts, that it's all just perception and spin and interpretation. But, you know, that's why I think it was in the summer of 2023, there was an African delegation that showed up in Moscow trying to help, say, hey, we're here to try to help broker a ceasefire. And Putin said, well, we'd made an agreement And here it is, guys. He passed it around to them. And the Africans were genuinely shocked because they'd been hearing the West spin and they'd been hearing Ukraine's story. But now that they saw the actual document, which had the actual initials, both of the Russian and the Ukrainian negotiators on it, they knew that Russia wasn't lying. And as you correctly note, Zelensky got a law passed that it's illegal and punishable by going to prison if you try to negotiate with the Russians, if you're Ukrainian and try to negotiate with the Russians. And so that's where, Putin's going, so who are we supposed to talk to? Because they've said it's illegal.